Hi, I'm Peter Gould. I'm co-creator and executive producer of Better Call Saul, and this is episode 603, Rock and Hard Place.
I'm Larry Benjamin, one of the re-recording sound mixers on the television show, and I work with my partner Kevin Valentine.
And I'm Gordon Smith. I wrote and directed this episode.
And I'm Jenn Carroll. I'm one of the producers. Gordon, how'd you get this shot out in the desert?
Oh, yeah. No, this is not a shot in the desert. We had to build this whole desert garden on stage to be able to control all the elements that we needed. So this is a motion control shot. It took Jordan Slovin and Rob Salviati, our B camera operators, like 2 days to set up with a motion control crew. And with me running back and forth and going, we need to change this timing, or we need to smooth this curve out, because it just takes a lot to program these things.
What an amazing job our greens team did. Because, most directors have to shoot out in the desert, but Gordon said, no, bring it to me. Build it inside the studio.
Yes.
Give me the sun.
Give me the sun. Give me the sun, the rain. Yes. But also, yes, the rain is actually one of the primary reasons we had to do it inside, so that we could build this rain rig that we could control when we needed, so that we could get this shot here of the rain approaching in the desert.
How did you choose that flower?
The greens team, Michelle and Jim, brought us a bunch of options, and they were all native plants that grow out in the New Mexico desert. That particular one, which is like a cornflower of some kind, I believe, just was so delicate and pretty and such a vibrant color that it just felt sad to think about it. Yeah, and then of course we get this piece of glass that we end with to sort of play off of that beautiful flower image and say, something's out here. There's something being unburied here that hopefully we'll get into later in the episode.
I think one of the things that's cool about that shot, just to keep talking about it, is the sound of the tink, 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 tink on the glass really draws your attention to the glass.
And I remember we played with that. Different rains. Remember when we had the rain that was a little bit too white noisy, then we had too much splatter and splitter splatter, and we kind of settled on one that was more like a musical little tink, tink.
Oh,
yeah, beautiful. I think that's so much of the artistry of what you guys do with the sound, is just finding these levels that you don't want it to stand out like we've done something, but right. You want it to do it so that it draws your attention. You have to trot that line so it doesn't feel artificial, and I think it's so brilliant there.
It's very musical.
It is, and you guys are wonderful because you're so conversant in sound, and you speak the lexicon of our language and really communicate well to us what you're looking for. And our brilliant sound supervisor, Nick Forshager, is wonderful with his team preparing all the proper elements. Some really good ingredients that we have.
And even in that first shot, it feels like it's scored. Because of what you guys have done, it feels like you've listened to score, and it's not. It's just the sound of rain and wind and some bugs and things that Nick programmed, and you guys kind of pulled together.
Sure,
which is great.
Oh, what a day!
Yeah.
So, several days you directed the heck out of this, Gordon.
You really did. It's this. God, this episode moves like a house on fire.
Yeah.
Tell us the deal with this tanker. What's the deal with this tanker?
It's two things. It's a real tanker that we set out in that field, and then this was built by our incredible construction and production design teams. This is Steve Brown and his team. I think Peter Riegert? No, Peter something. I don't know. Our head welder, I'm sorry, I forgot to name Peter. It did an incredible job building this huge tube that had all these requirements for camera ports, and then also weathered this piece of looking a piece of metal that we could shoot through on the day. So it had an incredible amount of requirements, including being able to get a camera in, and not just a camera, but a techno crane, because Marshall was like, the only way we're going to be able to do this and be able to move around in there and get the camera where we need it to be is going to be on a crane. So, Jen, maybe you can talk about what it took.
And additionally, it had to support the weight of all that liquid.
Yes,
oh, yes.
Absolutely.
So
all that liquid.
So Werner had to give them the information about how much liquid was there, and then we had to figure out how to get it off the ground. But just organizing I had storyboarded this out, but Jenn, this was not really intended to be pulled in, but I pulled her in to help produce on set for this episode.
You couldn't keep me away. I had a great time talking to you and Marsha because you had done so much prep. You had storyboards, you had overheads, you had a shot list. And so we came together, we took all of that and put it into one document for the crew. And we went through it with Marshall and your first AD, Rich, because you're right, shooting this, you had to have the camera on a special head in matrix mode, essentially mounted sideways, because it was the only way to get it in the sides. And then we had to plan carefully because we could only dip him in so many times. So we had a great plan with that team to know exactly when we were looking through the north side, through the south side, and if the camera was overslung or underslung so that we could get it real close to the oil or real close to the top because it's smaller than it looks on film.
Yeah, Jenn is being modest when she says we had a plan. Jenn made a plan. Jenn made it happen. So
it's something that's interesting that happens in a episode of television is if you have a very technically demanding sequence like this. Mm-hmm. This is highly technical and very logistical that it can end up taking all the energy of everyone working on the show, and the other scenes can get starved for oxygen.
It's true.
And one of the things I think is great about this episode is that this is the most highly technical thing you had to do, but it's only one pearl in the string of pearls in this episode.
And you had the time, because it was early in the season, you started planning this months in advance, building exactly what shape that oil did. You worked with Denise very early on.
Yeah. I got a little bit lucky because we had all this sort of special work that needed to land between episode 2 and episode 3, so I had a little bit of extra prep.
Special work being all the scenes with Brian and Aaron.
Yes. Exactly.
We had to shoot all the scenes with Brian and Aaron really during the schedule of episode 2. Yeah. It did give you a little extra prep, didn't it?
It did.
That's why we did that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we were shooting the interiors of this tanker on the same day that we were shooting the opening shot. So on one stage we had the desert, and on the other stage we had the oil.
What did you use for the oil? Because obviously it has to be a safe food grade.
Sorry, no.
We can only do this in one take.
Goop? Werner brought us a couple of different grades of viscosity that are safe and don't leave too much dye on the skin, because we have to turn them back around and get them out of there. That are sort of food grades, human safe. And then all of the pain that you see here, that's just Michael Mando. We talked him through what the actual exposure to this stuff, because you get exposed to petroleum. It's not like getting exposed to petroleum jelly. It's really nasty stuff, and it burns your skin and it messes with your lungs. And so he really sells it that he's been dipped in this gross stew of fumey. It's like being dipped in gasoline, essentially.
Ooh. Another shout out we should give is to Joey Reinisch.
Oh, yes.
Who edited this episode and did an amazing job.
There it is. Edited by
This was
there it is.
Joey's first solo episode. Second. Oh, it's second.
He did 601 this season.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of 601. This was, we had gotten our rhythm on 601. And he did this one also, and he's worked with us for years, a couple of seasons as Skip's assistant. Now he's an editor in his own right, and he's fantastic. So, any showrunners listening to this, or studio folks, you should definitely hire either of our two Joeys, Joey Reinisch or Joey Liu, who is also
so
an
great.
assistant.
Where are you here, Gordon? Where's the shot?
This is another good sound thing to throw out, because we're shooting not too far from I-40, and it was the perfect location to feel kind of remote as a space, but I'm sure, Larry, you could speak to what we had to do to get the sound.
We did have a fair amount of freeway. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
A ton of freeway.
Yeah, in these I always try to travel the lightest foot possible in terms of noise reduction. Mm-hmm. So we have a very rich background soundscape that again, Nick and Kevin work with. But I do have to do some noise reduction, and I try to do it instead of a shark bite. Instead of killing an ant with a bazooka, I like little piranha bites, little bites and bits and pieces. So I'll use, for instance, isotope dialogue isolate, which helps kind of reduce the noise floor.
That sounds like a drug.
It does. Isotope, take for headache. But no, it is good at kind of reducing kind of the noise floor, and then through equalization and, other techniques, with reducing the steam element of hiss, which is also part of that kind of white noise. Little bits and pieces, little bites, I'm able to mostly get it out. And then whatever is left and residual, we cover with, backgrounds.
Yeah, one of the things that's difficult about shooting, at least on the budget that we have, is like we don't get to have one of our members of the sound team come and scout with us and be like, and tell us how bad it's going to be, and whether or not what they can do to help us. So God bless Phil Palmer, who has to kind of roll with the punches. I gave him the heads up early that it was like, Phil, you're going to hate me, but this is the location. And he's like, we'll make it work.
He's great. Philip's terrific, and he often communicates with me in advance and gives me a heads up when something is going to be problematic, and sometimes even send a little sample, to work with in advance.
Yeah. But the other thing was that it felt we had to prioritize for this, which the interior wasn't that bad in my recollection, because this scene looked so good with the two of them.
Yeah, interior was great.
And this is a very sad sequence with Juan Carlos Cantu getting his, he doesn't know it, but it's his last phone call with his son.
What I think is so great about this episode is that everything that happens feels sad and inevitable, and you keep thinking maybe there's a way out, but knowing that there's no way out for Nacho doesn't make it any less pleasurable to watch. Just absolutely heartbreaking.
People kept saying, and this is, I don't know, it's interesting because they kept saying like, oh, I was so surprised by the end. And I think something that, Peter, you said all along about this episode is that we don't trick anybody here. We really just said it's inevitable and this is what's happening. And then we do the thing. We don't have a tricksy ending. We actually kill him. There's a twist to it, but it's not that he gets away and runs off and has a nice life. It's unfortunately that he goes into his tragic ending.
The twist is that there's no twist.
Yeah,
that's about right.
And I agree with you, Gordon. And it's a sort of a relentless march to this guy's fate. And I don't think you understand fully until these two phone calls how trapped he is.
Yeah.
I think it took us in the writer's room a while to understand that there was no way out for him. We tried, as I recall, I think last season, I'll cop to the fact that last season I kept thinking, well, we'll find a way to get Nacho away with his dad to Manitoba.
Yeah.
And when we really started looking at it seriously, especially from Gus's point of view, it couldn't happen. And the thing that I love is that Nacho knows it right here.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
so smart. He's figured it out. He's not a passive victim. And that's, I don't know that it's a heroic death, but there's a heroic aspect to it. He's
making
bowing to the inevitable.
But I love that transition that he just did there, where he's going through his emotions and just that little laugh that brings him out of it. And this is
so elegantly done.
Going off the gun. That's what I remember. You were like, I know how I want to get into this scene.
Yeah, this was a very tricky scene to get into, and we had to kind of try and match as best we could with what Vince and Paul had done in episode 2. But I was like, okay, if we can just get in off of something, if we can find a way into this was something that Michelle McLaren told me when I was directing my first episode. She's like, if you know how to get into and how to get out of a sequence, you can find your way through it. But like, as long if you're directing and you know how to get in and really know how to get in and really know how to get out, if you're in trouble and you get in trouble with the rest of the sequence, you'll be okay. And
that's great advice.
Yeah. One thing I really love about your relationship, Larry and Peter, is that you guys are not afraid to let the backgrounds come up and threaten the dialogue a little bit. A lot of shows, you're like, I have to hear all the words, And Peter, you're not precious about that. Gordon, you're not precious about that. And Larry, as you're balancing the dialogue and the backgrounds and the score, you're fearless.
Yeah, you're very kind for saying, these guys have been terrific, and all of you guys encouraging us to crowd the dialogue a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and we can do that. The track is so well recorded to begin with, it can withstand being crowded a little bit, and having it live in a world. It really does help sell whatever world we're in, whether it's the desert and the little subtle winds, or you guys encouraged me to put on Slap. We have some scenes coming up where they're in warehouses and
Slap in the Echo.
Yeah, Slap is the Echo.
Inside the oil tank.
Yeah, the oil tank. Yeah, we kind of put it in that space. Kind of has that little kind of Enochaic-ish, rather comb-filtered sound to it.
Oh man,
it's amazing that you were able to do that. That was just
right here.
Larry just hit
Did
it.
that with his hands,
That's
ladies and gentlemen.
That's a professional.
But putting it in a space, and we have lots of little tricks and things that we do to help sell that. Putting literally slaps, like a little bit of a little delay on something. If someone's outside, you want to hear their voice bouncing off of buildings or what have you. Like even in this garage, we put a little slap on Nacho's voice, as he's talking to his dad.
It's always it is a tricky thing, I will say too, though, because one of the dangers of working with material in sound is that we know the dialogue, we know what the people are saying. And sometimes, you can be tempted to bring the music up or something up and kind of, and not just crowd it, but bury it. And there are filmmakers who I will not mention, who I think they honestly think that the audience hears everything, but it's because they know what the dialogue says. So you have to kind of, it's a balance. Everything's like everything. You can always have. We all love, like Vince says, we all love, chocolate syrup. You just don't want to put too much of it on there.
Yeah, and if we do our jobs properly, we won't have the viewer at home remixing the show with the remote control or necessitating the need for subtitles. And if we do our job properly.
I think, speaking of chocolate syrup, this is a side note, but one of my favorite things that you do, Larry, is refer to it as some vermouth.
Yes.
Whenever there's something that's kind of going wrong with some dialogue, or it's feeling rough around the edges, it's like, I'm just going to add a little vermouth. And no, it's a secret. I have no idea what you're doing. I'm sure you wouldn't, even if you explained it, I wouldn't know.
But 90% of the time, we'll say something like, I heard something, and you'll say, we shifted from the lav. Usually, most of the time, people are mic'd two different ways in every scene. The actors are all have a little radio pack, and there's a microphone hidden in their costumes most of the time. And then there's also a boom microphone, which is held either over them or under them by a boom operator. And the boom microphone sounds better as a rule. It has a more full sound as a microphone, but the lav microphone is closer to the mouth.
So it'd be cleaner.
So sometimes it can be, I don't know, is that right?
It is right, but unfortunately, it's great because it stays with the actor or actress as they're moving on and off set, whereas the boom is limited to the frame. If you can't, if you have such a wide shot, you can't physically get the boom closer. So, and then there are anomalies that happen when the lavalier is on, hidden in the clothing. You get that kind of chest resonance.
Oh, yeah.
And so it has a little different sonic characteristic than the boom microphone, as Peter pointed out, is much richer. So my job is to kind of make them meet in the middle somewhere, and inevitably, if we cut between those two mics, Peter's like, something's rubbing me, and it's subtle, and that's when we say it's an opportunity for vermouth. Because in bartender parlance, you want to be gentle with the vermouth. Just some people maybe just show at the bottle, put a little bit of a splash into it.
Nice. As a side note, Sonic Resonance is my band name.
It's a perfect band name.
I do want to mention that we just had this lovely scene between Bob and Ray go by, and I just love how at this point in the season, this is the scene I think where it really becomes clear that this is the scam really brings them together, and now it's even acting as kind of an aphrodisiac.
Yes.
And I love the way you directed that, Gordon. It's just beautiful.
Thank you. And it's our first appearance of their scam board, which we sort of was sort of a stand-in for what the writers do in the room. Is put together. What if they did this? And we put a little note up. What about these pieces? And
why are you giving this to me?
And now we have the great Julie Pearl, who was a character that we brought in. I think she was in season 2 was our first episode with her, as an ADA that we felt would be. We have ADA Oakley, of course, but we needed somebody that would be a little bit more formidable, and she's been just a rock for us.
so
She's so good.
Do you think she would have had this conversation with Kim if Kim hadn't delivered that information? Because she thinks of Kim as an upstanding person.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yes.
I love that. I just feel like I see the moment where she decides, you know what, I'm going to tell her.
Yeah, I think that's right. That was the goal of this, was that it felt like she wouldn't take this stab if she didn't think that Kim was an upright citizen, and that she would hope maybe there's a way that she could shake Kim a little bit loose and make her case that maybe Jimmy knows something. And I think this whole scene is about, she's smart. She's not trying to be like, your husband is a bad guy. Now tell me everything you know. She's trying to make it as clean and as easy for Kim to say yes, that she will help her with Jimmy as she could.
From where I stand.
She really is offering a way out for Jimmy and Kim, but especially for Jimmy.
Yeah.
And she's really reasoned it out very cleverly.
And I will say, this is something, as I was trying to figure this out, because they we scout different locations and try and figure out how they'll work. And we had this place, and this felt like it was going to work with our schedule and work with the story. And when I presented it to you, Peter, you were like, okay, this is good, but I want, think about a way for this not to just be two characters sitting across a desk, kind of going back and forth. And you just, as you're a much more experienced, much better director than I am. So you were like, try and think about how you can block this so that it isn't just static and just the two of them going back and forth. And so I was like, okay. And I thought about it and sort of worked with them to try and figure out what would be something that felt like give some movement to the scenes. Keep Ray gets to do so much rooted, but Julie kind of moves in and makes her attack, and no, I'm on your side, and now she's literally on her side. And so that was all because I think, Peter, you gave me the good tip of like, think about how you can block this so that it doesn't just get stuck in a room.
I think you're underselling yourself as a director. I think you're a really terrific director, and I learned that last season. I think that was more me being a producer. But I think these two are look, it's the great thing about television is that we get to find actors we really like.
Yeah.
And then you give them more things to do. And Julie's just she's a wonderful foil for Kim.
Yeah.
Because she's on the right side of the law, and she has integrity, and she's smart. And these two should really be friends.
They should. Yeah. Yeah, they kind of have closer to more aligned interests than Jimmy and Kim do sometimes.
Yes.
So
there you go.
That's brilliant the way that shot. Love
Yes.
that depth of
so
field.
great.
Rack focus.
Yes.
Although I distinctly remember.
there's a small thing. I don't think we only see it in like one shot, but it's just, I loved what Ray was doing with her hands, because Ray is sitting there kind of, it's the one sign that this is getting to her. It's the one sign that
It's the tell.
it's her tell, and it's just her wringing her fingers out in this anxious way, which is like, I just thought it was so cool that she was doing that.
And I think he knows what's right.
I love when we give the characters a way out. And when you, sometimes making things, giving the character a way out, but that's going to make them do things that they don't want to do. And that's when you find out what's really important to the people. This is so nicely done. And of course, we had a previous montage in a previous episode with this, this dissolves, and this, but this is just very elegant.
And this is another shout out to production design, because they had to make this. Yeah, this is like our fourth warehouse space that we kind of tried to feel like a part of Gus's warehouse empire.
We've never been able to use the same warehouse for more than a season.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I guess because they're warehouses and people put things in them.
And this footage was actually shot, it was not Marshall, because this is our first day, and Paul had to step in at the last minute because Marshall was bit by a black widow the day before we were shooting it. And Paul came in, and of course he's incredible. He's our other DP. And so we stole him from prep so that he could. But this Marshall and this anything with Michael Mando in it, we shot later because Michael Mando had also injured his thumb and was not there. So we had to shoot that in 2 different pieces.
We were all playing hurt.
I love the lighting in this.
Yeah.
This is so
I
gorgeous.
love how this came out. Marshall did an incredible job just making it feel, and Marshall and Denise, because we built all of this and we built this entire, whatever you call it, like it's an industrial pergola over them to try and make that space feel a little bit different. And we sent Denise some references to make it feel like those grating that you're shooting the light down through, which sort of makes it feel like Nacho's already in prison.
Because I think the original idea that this was some kind of glassed-in office on one side of the warehouse, and you guys, I think, found a much better solution. Michael Mando in real life eats so well. He eats so clean. I remember we had a discussion about what he could eat, and finally, I think he agreed that we could at least have a slice of cake or some bread present.
For his last meal.
He didn't have to eat it, but I felt if you're going to die the next day, you're going to want some carbs. But maybe that's just me.
That's how I live all of my life. Like I'm going to die tomorrow, so carbs today.
I like how resigned these guys are.
Yeah.
And this is just great.
I also like that Mike like Howard Hamlin has a bottle of scotch ready. That's right. for all moments.
Well, if you're going to beat up a guy, you want him to have a little drink first.
Yeah, I love the paternal energy here and the respect, because there are not too many people Mike respects up there. It's Nacho, it's Kim, and it's Gus. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, you're right.
And finding that line with the two of them was interesting because it's like, they are uneasy with each other. They don't love each other. There's a lot of our characters in that side of the world that work together and have respect, but not. It only can go so far because Mike is also consigning him to his death. So.
Oh, great. Oh, Gordon, you had a lot of thoughts with the music that Hamlin would be listening to.
Well, we talked about it as like, what does he listen to? Is he a jazz guy? Is he a classical? It felt like jazz and classical would be his jam.
Yeah.
And then this piece that Thomas found for us when Joey and I were cutting it, I was just like, let's see if we can make this play for all of it and kind of bring it all together to try and bring this.
Bring the jump cuts together?
Bring the jump cuts together, but also bring the montage sequence together to give it something that we could use for both existing in the real world, but then existing in kind of the heightened world of the montage. And this is Brandon Root playing Tony, our valet. This is his first gig as an actor. He was very excited to be there.
Huel's up to his old tricks. Look at that. It's so well done.
And this sequence was not originally in the episode. Can we say in the first round of breaking, and it was something that you guys felt was necessary and you added in the script phase?
Yeah, we added it pretty early in the script phase, but
the way I remember it, you tell me if this is right. You guys have to tell me that we had an outline. And Jimmy mentioned that Huel was going to get the keys.
Yep.
But we didn't actually see it.
Right.
And we didn't get an awful lot of notes from the network in the studio, but they said something like, we'd love to see Huel again.
Yeah.
And then we said, well, if you're going to ask for more. And I think that was how it came about. I don't know if it was scripted without it or whether it was just an outline. I can't remember.
I can't remember when exactly.
Or maybe we
someplace
pitched
in that
it.
phase.
We might have pitched it too.
We did have to break it, and I mean, we broke it. Once we got that, and we're like, yes, we're going to do it. We spent a day breaking what it was going to look like, and then.
But it's so fun. I'm so glad that it's
so much
in here.
to
It's so
talk about.
artful.
And what's
How
this
did you do
thing?
this?
Great.
This we've scouted this weird sort of hexagonal parking structure, and when we were looking at it, there's a gap, a weird gap that runs all the way through the corner of not all of the stairwells, but like 2 of the stairwells because it's a rhombus or something, parallelogram, and And I was like, Marshall, can we run something through there? And he's like, yes, I will figure out how to do it. And we ran this sort of counterbalance. It's like basically building an elevator for a camera rig, which worked out to give that whole descender. And then I didn't really know what we were going to do with it. I just thought it would be cool to kind of mix into the shot. And then Joey came back with this cut of it where he was using it as a series of wipes. And I was so delighted because I was on set and you're shooting things and hoping. And Joey showed me like how it could work. And I'm like, yes. And then we kind of made that into the thing that drove the montage.
Well, it's really super, super fun.
Sure, go ahead.
I love what Lavelle does here. He's just like, cool, what is this? It's just like,
You're a lawyer.
he kind of lays back most of the time. So he doesn't stick his neck out to ask a question like, what's wrong with you?
Get money.
It's funny that the sequence came about that way because this scene wasn't in the show either.
Yeah, both of those kind of came
then-
through there.
Oh, actually, wasn't the original version we just saw Lavelle bringing the key? I'm forgetting now.
No, we didn't see him at all.
We didn't see him at all.
Yeah.
So, it's so hard for me to think of that because this scene seems so key to the thing. It seems so important to the episode because, and also just to the progress of things because you want to know what Jimmy thinks is going on here.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is Jimmy's explanation for what they're up to? And I think it's super important at this point in the story.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where like that was not the first intent. It was something that we kind of came to as we were working on it. And now, of course, Kim smoking inside. That's a change. So.
It does. It feels like a little bit wicked, a little bit evil.
Yeah.
Evil.
Very naughty.
But yes, naughty. That's
She's still
the right
smoking
word.
by herself, which is, all of that.
Yeah.
I guess she does that. Bob and Ray love to pass objects back and forth.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
Now, Larry, you've been in this environment about 1,000 times. Do you have a favorite location to mix in?
You mean in terms of on the show, like what's my favorite location from the show?
Yeah.
Sonically, there's so many wonderful opportunities. I mean, the desert is great because it's affords us opportunities to have little solos of insects and things like that. This is great. I never knew this was a set. It's such a good set.
Really?
Yes, I
Oh,
thought it was like a
great.
practical thing. You guys integrated it so well.
They let him go.
I mean, this is the most controlled environment, so we can play things like the fish tank, and you can hear it, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
bubbles and all that. And we can play the whole world happening outside, little horns, honks, and cars and such.
She says it's
But I love sonically playing in warehouses. Remember when we had Werner and playing big slaps and things like that? Sound takes on a big, percussive element to it when you're afforded that ability. Or the Super Lab. Those are kind of fun sonically.
Great.
Yeah.
just a fishing expedition to see if you buy
A fishing expedition as you see,
As you see the fish back
awesome.
there.
Let me ask you a question, Gordon. She says, what's his real choice here? Because when she says, you can either flip, you can be a rat. Essentially, he can either do
Or a friend
as
of the cartel.
as the DA has suggested, or he can be a rat. What do you think being a rat means to them?
I mean, I think right here, I think being a rat means doing what the DA suggested, and I don't think he wants that.
Because he'd make an enemy of the cartel.
He'd make an enemy
Yeah.
of the cartel. I think it means ending not just what they're doing with Hamlin, but kind of a whole string of life for Jimmy. He can't really go in, be a lawyer who turned against his clients.
That's a good point. If that becomes public, that's kind of the end of his legal career.
Yeah, so I
Absolutely.
think it's a trick. It's like, which devil do you go to here? Which way do you want to jump? And like the right thing to do probably would be to avoided the problem in the first place by not getting into that bed.
Or
But
by not lying for Lalo.
by not lying for Lalo, but now here he is, and what is it? What are they going to do?
This was so clever. I remember it originally as we pitched this, Nacho, they were going to turn him around in a chair or something. And then you guys came up with the idea of using the light this way to reveal his beat up face. I think it's just so elegant.
Thank you. Yeah, it was he just looked so bad.
Yeah.
It just felt like just having him sit still and not moving him around much. But
I will mention a shot that came previously. That we've lost our chicken farm.
Oh, yeah, that's
many
all-
moons
Oh, yeah.
ago.
That's-
All the
So when you
effects.
see the exterior of the chicken farm, that is a digital matte painting,
yeah,
and I think it's quite a good one.
Yeah. And speaking of their cool shots coming up, you got to start talking now about that amazing shot with the glass. And
Oh,
how,
yeah,
how did you do that?
the end of this act shot, we were running out of time to shoot it on the day. We were supposed to shoot it on the day. So what we did was we shot a plate of Michael Mando in this location in the trailer, looking up through we put some glass on we shot him clean, looking up to get the ceiling. And then when we had time later, we took that and we put that image in a high def screen and then set the camera rig, and we're able to then manipulate exactly where we wanted the glass, because we knew just figuring out his movement and the glass and all of that was going to take we would have been dead in the water. So we just worked on his performance here, shooting it as if it was the perspective of that garbage can where Gus dumped the broken glass last episode. That's what we shot on the day, and then we had to take that and kind of do a secondary rig with it, which
Were those little pieces of glass, really?
Yeah,
Really
so there were
cool
little
prism
pieces of
effect
glass
right
and a
here.
prism.
Yeah, so this is this
so there was
shot.
some actual glass, and then there was some prism to kind of make this shot work. This moment of Nacho looking down and seeing the glass in the.
It's a little ambiguous. I think it's a tricky thing to shoot a shard of glass in a garbage can.
Yes.
And I think it's one of those things where you kind of wonder about it, and then you realize what it is.
Right.
As the episode goes on.
Yeah.
But it's super cool.
I loved this too. This is just sitting and we had to rig this up as we were running out of. We had seconds left before they were going to pull the plug on us, but we're shooting this. There's some grips that have a couple of 2x4s underneath the van and some light that Marshall was blasting through. It was actually dark outside by that point. We lost the light.
Mm-hmm. Now here are back out by the murder shack, which we saw in episode 210. When Mike was in this sniper position.
Yeah, we had all these reference points for how we were referring to these things. I kept thinking those things looked like teeth. So it'd be like, okay, so we want to be looking towards the teeth. Now we want to be looking down into Murder Valley.
Yes.
That would have been a good title for the episode.
It would have.
If we didn't have to do the
thought
end.
that.
If we didn't have to do the end.
Murder and Valley?
There you go. I love this moment.
Oh, it's so good. No words. You don't need any.
Heartbreaking.
First time you watch it, you're probably also wondering, I feel like Mike's going to rescue this guy somehow. Mike can do anything, but maybe Mike can't really do anything, just anything. And that's what we're learning here.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike's kind of. I think part of it is that Mike just is like, oh, I'm damned and in hell. Meh. That's life. I'm just going to do what I can for my granddaughter. That's my only priority.
Yeah, well, he's thrown his lot in with Gus Fring,
To get that shot, that brief flash of the glass in his hand, that was.
Oh yeah.
That was all Jen's doing.
Because we couldn't get a camera there. And Marshall, it was the lights dying. We were gonna pull the plug. The day's almost over, and we were like, what can we do? What can we do? And I turned to Marshall. I said, what about a mirror? This is what I always say to Marshall when we don't know how to shoot something where you can't get a camera around it. And his eyes lit up and he said, Jake, grab the such and such from the truck. And he put a mirror and we shot just the perfect angle. It's a trick that he taught me on El Camino, the shot of Jesse reaching toward the sink. It's you put it in a mirror and just flip it in post.
If you guys listen to the commentary track on 13, you'll hear another exciting mirror story.
Ooh.
And we owe it all to El Camino because El Camino, Marshall decided to carry a front silvered mirror for this.
Beautiful.
You can't just use a regular bathroom mirror because then there's a layer of glass between you and the reflective element. You can see that, but it's a special mirror. But it's a boy, what a great trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, it saved us.
this sequence is dizzyingly complicated. Talk about this. Talk
man,
about this.
Yeah, I mean, we just ended up with a lot of our characters sitting out here. This was another one where I storyboarded it with our storyboard artist, but and then Jenn did her magic to bring it all together to put together a document that the crew could read, not just me, because that's not my forte.
Yeah. You prepped the heck out of this.
Where
thing.
were
You
you?
prepped it
Where
for
were
a
you
long
on 13?
time.
I should have made that stay. I should have made you stay and work with me on 13.
Oh, that's very
Jenn's a secret weapon here.
Aw,
She is,
thank you.
absolutely. There's-
Well, look at those blue skies, Gordon. We had pretty good weather,
Oh,
wouldn't you
shut up.
say?
Yeah, so we got rained out. Our first day we turned in, I think, the lowest amount of footage we ever did because we started shooting, I can't even remember which. I think we started with the Salamancas, and we just got one shot on them, and then the rain started, and then we waited to try and get the rain and the lightning out, and then
And the wind hit.
and then the wind hit, and then we went to lunch to try and let nature take its course over lunch, and then we came back and we shot one more shot, and then the wind hit and we were blown out, and I was so devastated because I was like, all right, we're gonna do it, we're gonna be there, we're gonna get it done, and then everything fell apart. But
Yes.
so you can see a couple of shots where it looks real cloudy in these things. The skies change real fast.
No one's
so.
looking at that. They're looking
I
at
really
these
don't think
amazing
so.
performances you got.
Yeah, I think what you
beautiful
notice
shots.
is the skies and scenes like this. But it's also a scene,
What I need to know.
Larry, it's a scene that's shot over a
It's a good one.
couple of days. And
Who put you up to
what are some of the challenges of doing a scene like this?
It's balancing the dialogue because it was captured over the course of a few days. The timbre and the equalization of the voices is a little bit different, but we smoothed it all out. And you have very astute ears, noticed those little differences if they weren't quite perfect. So there was an opportunity for vermouth many instances, but yeah, it all kind of smoothed out in the end visually and I think auditorily as well.
I was so happy that we were able to use that shot because we just got.
Was that
Little
house
dust devil.
That was just happenstance.
Really?
No, there's just it was so windy. We talked about bringing out a wind machine with Werner SFX, and he was like, I guess, but like, there's going to be so much wind, you're just going to have to take what you get, and like,
Brilliant.
And this is so beautifully laid out, Gordon. And just in terms of getting a little bit of everybody, understanding where everyone is, and yet having a strong point of view. And really, it is Nacho's scene. There's just no question.
yeah, and just and Michael, he wanted to make sure this was good, and he was very
Los odios we know.
emotional about the journey for himself and his character. So. We just worked it.
It's a tour de force for him. Am I right in thinking that this murder shack, the Salamanca's torture shack, is that really there? Can we go see it if we go to Albuquerque?
Oh,
It was there on the day.
If only because unfortunately, this was one of those things that was tricky because when we built it before for 210, it was only shot really from above,
The sniper
from the
position.
sniper position. But now we got down and so it was just like a shipping container with walls built
Two
around it.
walls.
Oh, really?
2 walls.
Not even 4.
So we had to scramble a little bit, and Denise had to kind of come up with a way to hide some of the walls and some of the fact that, there's not really a roof on a lot of it. So it was a challenge.
But you were able to shoot from the inside out. There was something.
Inside out,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
sure. Because we were very clear, like, we need to be able to shoot out.
I love this push-in. This push-in is so good. Our crane operator, Jax, who used to be our dolly grip, turned to Gordon right after the first time he did it. Was like, that was great. Thumbs up.
Oh,
It
you
was
had
so
Jax?
good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
It was
Jax.
just before he went off to shoot the second Knives Out in Greece with Ryan Johnson.
It's true.
But,
It's true.
Oh, God. This
But when
is-
your crew turns to you and is so invested,
Yes.
every person on this crew kept coming up to Gordon and complimenting him and coming up to Michael
I know,
Mando.
I know Gordon
People say
hates
a lot of things.
Gordon hates a compliment more than anything. It just makes him so uncomfortable. It must have been like hell for you.
you know what, Peter? No, this.
Oh, this is
very-
And by the way, Dave Porter,
Brilliant
Dave
score.
Porter's music, and Joey's cutting here.
Yeah.
But you're planning, you're writing and planning. I mean, and I know
This is so.
as a director, having this many actors in a scene, this is a huge challenge.
And they were all great, and they all were there for it. It was just, it was a question of like, and we had to sort of make sure that this was safe because, Mark Margolis is not a spring chicken, and we didn't want to dump him or hurt him or anything.
The lifting of him.
The lifting of him,
we
and then carrying him in the chair. So we reinforced the chair.
This is a beautiful, beautiful techno crane shot.
Yeah, this turned out great.
really
I was like,
good.
I had this. I'm like, I don't want to get into cuts. I just want to stay with Gus here as we're kind of heading out of the scene. So,
And you don't want to see the body getting shot
you
up
just
or
wanted
anything.
to. I wanted this to feel, and we talked about this from the very beginning, Peter. Like, feel just impotent and like a hollow gesture on Tio's part, Hector's part, but. It did give us another shot of seeing that glass. Sorry.
No, not at all. Even the sound of his gun is a little more impotent intentionally by you guys
Yes.
than Nacho's.
And then we have that
What an episode.
nice
Oh
walk off.
God, I can't believe it. That went by in an instant. What a great piece of work, Gordon.
Great job, Gordon.
I think everybody.
And now I realize it's great job, Jen. Great job, I realize now.
Great job, Larry.
No, you guys, but
Larry,
fantastic.
beautiful sounding episode.
We didn't have enough chances to talk about it, but Michael Mando really did.
Yeah, what a
great
star.
job.
Michael is fantastic.
like,
And it's he
camera
holds the
loves him.
screen.
He does, and he came up with things and just kept fighting for this episode to be good. So, thank you for listening.
He won. You won. It's a great episode.
We all won.
We all won.
Yes,
Yay!
everybody wins.
Yay.